On today's show, we head to Punk Rock Marketplace, celebrate with Plymouth Pride, hear original work from America's hometown Laureates, talk to BID Director of Social Work and author Sarah Cloud, go out for ice cream with a local scene, and talk about upcoming things to do in our South Shore towns. In for Elizabeth, I'm Julie Thompson. Let's get started. You may have noticed that two larger-than-life Adirondack chairs have popped up in Plymouth. Well, unable to resist a good sit in an oversized chair and a good ice cream on a warm summer day, the local scene team decided to venture out into the community for some afternoon fun. Take a look.
Summertime is freedom for kids, but not so much for adults. So on this gorgeous summer day, we took a lunch break and got some ice cream.
Whether you're a teen, a senior, or anything in between, mental health impacts all of us, including the professionals that help us on our mental health journeys. We spoke to licensed social worker Sarah Cloud about her role as Director of Social Work for BID Plymouth, her work as an author, as well as the current landscape for behavioral health. Sarah Cloud, you are an author, a therapist, and the Director of Social Work for BID Plymouth. What brought you to this point in your life?
That seems like a lot. No wonder I'm tired. What brought me to this point in my life is a lot of education, a lot of schooling. I went to undergrad at Fitchburg State University, which was a really economic way to launch myself. And from there, I got my master's in social work from Boston College. And that was great, but I wanted more, so I went back and got a master's degree in business from Eisenberg School of Management. And I've got about 30 years worth of clinical experience in the field, and love my chosen profession every day.
Good for you.
Most days.
Did you know that you wanted to go into the field of mental health overall?
You know, in high school, I was really fascinated by psychology and kind of what makes people tick and why people do what they do. And I think years into this field, I now look back at my childhood. My parents were getting phone calls all night long from people that they were befriending, people are helping. They weren't psychologists, they weren't social workers, they were just helping other folks. So I think that like informal helping, and I just thought that was normal. Well, I know now that that's not. And that they were really special, and they were really helping people out, their friends, with various things that were going on in their lives in crisis. And so I think that probably inspired me to do it on a professional basis. My phone does not ring 24/7, so I give them a lot of credit for having done that.
Yeah.
But now I do that in a professional capacity.
Good for you. All right. Before we get into your role at Beth Israel, let's talk about your life as an author. I find this whole thing fascinating. You're the writer of the Mama Paca's children's series, which helps children cope and understand loss associated with addiction. Talk about how you launched this, how you got into it, and why it's so important.
Yeah, thank you for asking about that. So I really became interested and deeply immersed in the addiction field when I came to work at BI Plymouth about 8 years ago. Plymouth was hit very hard by the opiate epidemic. And so that became a very significant piece and focus of my professional, practice. And through that, I've met so many people in recovery who are often doing amazing things, a lot of grieving family members, and a lot of people who are also actively dealing with addiction, either themselves or their family are struggling with it. And one of the things that I really saw that was missing was help for elementary school age children. So they're greatly impacted. Their lives are, really kind of can be chaotic, and it's really hard to understand. And so I started looking at literature for elementary school age children, because there's some really great literature out there. Hey Kiddo, for the adolescents and the young adults. There's so much, more for them, but there really wasn't much for elementary school. And so my search was coming up empty. And I was sitting at a round table waiting for a task force meeting to start with Joanne Peterson, who is the founder and the director of Learn to Cope. And so I asked her, so if Joanne Peterson doesn't know that a resource like that exists, then it doesn't exist.
Right.
So then I set off to self-publish this children's book series that helps explain and celebrate a parent's life, but also the loss and how they courageously fought against the disease of addiction.
Yeah.
Very much like, somebody who fights against the disease of cancer, diabetes, heart failure, all of that, and really parallels it to the medical disease that it is, but the ones that are we may be a little bit more familiar, or a little bit more comfortable talking about.
Right.
So they celebrate the parent's life. It explains the process of how somebody might have gone into the disease of addiction, and kind of hope and ways to remember them.
Right.
Once they're gone, but they're always in our hearts.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we could do a whole nother podcast on that. Thank you. And I hope people take advantage of that and read Mama Paca Children's Series. Tell us about your role as director of social work at BID.
Yeah, so I came to work at BID Plymouth 8 years ago. And, I think a lot of the focus has been internal at working with, people that are coming into the emergency room, med surg, critical care. And that is a huge piece of the work that I do. And for a whole host of reasons, people come in because they're struggling with substance use and they're ready for help. They come in for medical reasons, but they're also got that secondary and they're maybe not sure ready for help. Helping adjust to, illnesses, sudden loss, sudden death. Just really a whole host of reasons why people come into the emergency room or medically, and having a team. We have a team of phenomenal social workers, psychiatric nurse practitioners. We have recovery coaches. They're people who have lived experience. They're in recovery themselves.
Right.
So we have this whole team of behavioral health specialists.
So you could have a number of different reasons why people cross your path, or why you need to support them.
Yes.
Okay. And do they almost always come in through the ER, or is it? That's generally where it starts.
So that's generally where it starts.
Okay.
And I think what's been really that I've loved about the work at BI Plymouth is not only is it within the hospital's four walls that we're doing this work, but we're able to also link with the community. So we have an outpatient team that runs nearby to the hospital. Yeah. So we take referrals from our primary care physicians that are in network and specialty practices. Okay. We're able to get people into treatment very quickly. Okay. The brief treatment model, so 12 sessions. It usually resolves what's going on in the moment. We can then link them to longer term treatment in the community.
So you're kind of the hub. You can assess what is needed, and you have all these different avenues.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
terrific.
Then we work very collaboratively with our community partners. Yeah. And are able to link with them. So somebody leaves the emergency room, following an overdose, and they're linking up with, Plymouth County Outreach, and the recovery coach is going to the home and following up with them. So it's really just a connected, comprehensive, orchestrated movement within our community.
It doesn't stop and end at the ER.
It should never stop and end at the ER. Yeah, unless somebody wants it to.
Right. Okay. Yep. There's a lot of concerns relating to mental health these days, with shortages in the professions and burnout. What keeps you in this field?
Variety keeps me in the field. As you can tell, I do a lot of different things, and I think the other piece, that most important thing, in addition to variety, that keeps me in the field is hope.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So I am inspired on a daily basis by people who have done very significant things with their lives, really turn things around. Not to say that they haven't struggled and they haven't fought hard, but they're shining. They have found their path to recovery, their path, whether it be through mental health, and well-being, whether it be recovery. So to see that recovery is possible and what amazing things happen in one's life once they found recovery, inspires me to want to bring that back and try to help connect everyone else with the same amazing things that they have discovered in that wellness journey.
Oh, good for you. You see, you're the type of person that always sees the positive too. You're just that kind of person. Now, there's been a long-standing stigma around, mental health, and it seems it's becoming less and less so. That people can talk about it more. It's becoming more in the mainstream. Mm-hmm. How has that happened? Why has that happened?
It's a movement in the right direction. We have so far to go. I'd like to think that part of this is everybody's been impacted, unfortunately. The pandemic has really left a mark. In particular, the social isolation and the stress related to it has been very significant, and all the losses.
Right.
There's so many layers of losses, whether you've lost a job, whether you've lost stable housing, you've lost a loved one or a friend or somebody to the pandemic. I mean, there's just so many layers of losses that people have experienced, and I think that we just need to talk about it more often. I think people are talking about it more often. So I think those are all the really great things, and I think there's been a lot of promotion of health and wellness in social media,
right.
On TV. So I think there's a lot more availability.
You see more and more ads about it. You see more and more social posts about it. It's becoming more in the mainstream of things that you can talk about.
And some really cool platforms have come out via telehealth.
Yes, talk about that.
That make it more accessible. There's all sorts of different platforms that
so you don't have
available.
you make an appointment and go wait a month to see someone in person.
Yeah.
There's other options you can have. Now there's different mental health needs for different age groups. Mm-hmm. I know the seniors have their own sets of issues with isolation and aging, and then so do young people. Mm-hmm. So how do you serve or service those separate groups? How do you go at them differently?
So I think, as you said, each age group has a different need, a different approach that we take. I think there's a lot of similarities, though, between all of them. I think, with the older folks, there's the cognitive decline that's been accelerated due to isolation. So that's a really important aspect. For the younger folks, they've had different reactions to the social isolation and for being off track of what the routine is and all the normal activities that come along with being a youth. Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing a pretty significant impact on a lot of ages with alcohol use. People hunkered down during the several years, 2 to 3 years of the pandemic. Yep. They were bored, they were isolated. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, I'm at home, I might as well have another drink. Yeah. And it's a very progressive and sneaky disease. And I think before people realized it, the amount that they're using was exceeded what they ever had anticipated their planning to, what they planned to do. Right. And needed some intervention, some help, some assistance on that when they weren't expecting that was going to be the outcome of, their lockdown.
Right. That was the last thing they thought would happen.
Yeah.
And just, can I ask about social norms and things that go on in the world? How does that affect the stress of people? The stock market, wars, the government, whatever it be. We're barraged with not great news a lot.
Nonstop.
So
nonstop.
How much does that have to do with our ability to cope?
It's huge. Mm. And I think, again, all across all age groups, we are constantly in motion. Our minds are constantly being stimulated and messaging, and it not having the ability to stop and shut that off and quiet our minds is the greatest impact for everything that we're seeing right now in terms of our mental well-being and our health.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What can we do in our own life to support mental health of the people around us and for ourselves?
Yeah, talking about it, Normalizing it, as you said,
Yeah.
is so important. Reaching out and connecting. You worried about somebody, they've been quiet, they haven't quite been themselves. It's okay to, reach out and ask them, how are you doing? I noticed that you're kind of quiet lately,
Yeah.
Is there, do you want to talk? Do you want to go for a walk? So,
Right.
and doing the same for yourself.
Right.
There are people that, and I know when we don't feel well and we're feeling depressed and, we think that people don't care. Well, most of the time that's not true,
Right.
So getting over that and reaching out to somebody yourself and say, hey, you want to go for a walk? I just need to talk to somebody, or I'm just not having a good day. So I want to encourage people to do that
And it
as
can
well.
be as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, in our last minute or so, what advice would you have for other people that are entering this field or thinking about entering this field?
It is a great field. I would certainly want people to go into the field with eyes wide open in terms of, what their work will look like and the demands of it. It's a very promising field. So I'd, highly recommend reaching out and maybe doing an internship or shadowing or talking to somebody in the field to ensure that this is really the avenue that you want to go
Right.
to.
Yep.
And there are a couple of books and resources I found much later in my practice and my career that I would have liked to start off with right away.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is The Deepest Well by a pediatrician, a Jamaican-born pediatrician,
Okay.
Dr. Harris Burke. So I think that was a really great way to think about whether you really want to work in the field and whether this is for you.
And you not only can do what you do at BID, but you can also have a private practice, correct?
Yes, yes.
And you want to give yourself a plug for your private
Yeah,
practice and why
so-
that's important
Yes.
to dovetail to what you do every day?
Yeah, so it's a nice kind of variety and a different pace for me to do a private practice. And there's a lot of platforms out there right now that make it really easy for providers like myself, a therapist, to offer private practice, and for people who are thinking about going into and getting a therapist. So I use Hello Alma, ALMA. You can really go on, you can search, and you can do free consults for 15 minutes. Shop around, find
Yeah.
the one that's going to be a right fit for you.
For you, right.
Because if it's not one size fits all.
Right.
I'm not going to be the right therapist for everybody.
Right.
So yeah, you can book these 15-minute consults. You can
the
talk to a
resources
couple
are
people.
there.
They're getting
Resources
they're
are
getting
there.
better.
Yeah,
they're getting better.
Okay.
Yep. So it's
Thank
really
you.
exciting times.
Thank you so much, Sarah Cloud. We so appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, I always enjoy meeting with you.
For more information on the Mama Paca's children's series, please visit mamapaca.com. The Kingston Public Library invites you to the Adams Center for a talk on this month's local history collection exhibit, A History of Kingston Schools. Presented by archivist librarian Nick Catullus, this discussion will cover the historical significance of the subject, as well as curation of historic materials and the design of the exhibit itself. Running from August 16th through the 31st, the new collection will feature different aspects of the Kingston schools, including notable teachers, students, education advocates, and the role of education in the town of Kingston. For registration for this event or for a full list of exhibit hours, visit the Kingston Public Library's website. Since 1867, the Marshfield Fair has been one of South Shore's most beloved traditions, filling 62 acres of fairgrounds with amusement rides, agriculture and horticultural exhibits, and delicious carnival bites. On August 22nd, the fair will be opening up its gates for a special Senior Day. From 12 to 3 p.m., seniors are invited to partake in art exhibits, entertainment, a magic show, free ice cream, and more. For more details on Senior Day, visit marshfieldfair.org or call 781-834-6629. If you're looking for fun, handmade treasures that are a mix of offbeat and quirky, the Plymouth Punk Rock Market is the place to be. Located at Mayflower Brewing Company, this funky market has everything from vinyl records and original art to vintage clothing and handmade jewelry. The local scene street team popped up at the July Punk Rock Market to chat with vendors and attendees to get the scoop on why this market is geared to all things weird.
Mark here, and we're popping up all over the place. Matter of fact, we're popping up here at the Mayflower Brewing Company for the Plymouth Punk Rock Market. Weird stuff for weird people. I don't think being weird is a 100% requirement, but we're going to take a look and see what things you can buy here at the Plymouth Punk Rock Market. I'm here today with Leandra Kelly. the inspiration, the creator, organizer extraordinaire of the Plymouth Punk Rock Market. Now, Leandra, what was your inspiration to create this?
Okay, so I lived outside Philadelphia for 5 years, and these punk rock flea markets are really popular out there. Trenton, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and the surrounding area. And I was a vendor at them. And when I started vending them, every time I talked about it back home to my friends here, everyone would be like, why don't we have those? What is that? So I'm like, I need to get one started here.
That's awesome. And, you know, what was kind of like, what led you to come over here to Mayflower Brewing Company?
I had a really hard time finding some place that had the space and the parking, and they've been really accommodating, and it's gone smoothly, and it's grown quite a bit because they have the space for it to grow.
Excellent. What would a person find here at the Plymouth Punk Rock Market?
Kind of the catchphrase is weird stuff for weird people, so that there's some taxidermy, there's some zombies inside. Check those out, they're really cool. And but then I have a guy that makes hot sauce, candles, vinyl records, vintage toys, vintage housewares and vintage clothing, original clothing, stickers, pins, comic books. It varies from quite weird to not that weird.
Excellent. All right. Leandra, thank you very much for your time today with us. Thank you. I'm here with Greg with Monster Mashups. Let me tell you, folks, this is not something that you would find, everywhere. This is a unique piece of artwork that you could take home, buy, have it in your home. It's the perfect housewarming gift. Greg, tell me your inspiration behind these.
Well, the thing is, I find all these different prints usually at thrift stores or online, and then I look at them and I go, what does it need? So for example, we have a nice bathtub over here, and what it needs is the Bride of Frankenstein. After a hard day of being chased by pitchforks and torches, she wants to relax, so I add her in there. So everyone is basically ones I find, and then I decide what I want to do. I take a print, I size it, I color it sometimes, I cut it out, I pastel around the edges so that it sinks into the picture, and then I decoupage it on. And I am up here from Nashville today visiting my friend next door, and figured I'd sell some art.
That's perfect. So this is your first time here at the Plymouth Punk Rock Market?
Yes, I back in the day when I lived in Boston, I left in '90. I played in like the Queers and some other bands. The Swinging Erudite was big back in the '80s, but haven't been back since then. So I'm happy to be back.
Here at Plymouth Punk Rock Market, I'll run into Ashton. Ashton, tell the folks at home where you're from.
I'm from Braintree, Massachusetts.
And this is your first time ever coming to the Plymouth Punk Rock Market?
Yeah, popped up on my Facebook feed, and I thought, hey, this summer's been kind of boring. Let's see something new.
So you've just kind of walked around because there's a huge back area. There's stuff inside as well. What are you kind of looking for today to spend your hard-earned dollar on?
Well, I'm an artist myself, so I like to go and find original creations from other artists, alternative artists. And so far, I'm finding an awful lot of stuff that I find pretty darn interesting. So, may end up with a bunch of new things on my walls.
The Plymouth Punk Rock Market, not only are there tons of folks to see outside, but inside, there's a wide variety of vendors as well. Here I am with Julie Hutching.
Hi, it's me, Julie Hutchings.
So here you are, you've got your complete works here that you're selling. Yes. Tell the folks at home all about your series.
Okay, I'm not for all the kids, but I love horror, and this series that I'm promoting currently, The Harpy, is a modern retelling of an old Greek myth, updated about a girl who's been abused and what that has made her into, what she wants to be and who she was. And it brings you to a lot of scary places, and it has a lot of purpose behind it. So it's something I'm really passionate about, and it's feminist, it's empowering, and it's important to me. So, and I think it should be important to everyone.
Excellent, excellent. Now, this isn't your first time here at the Plymouth Punk Rock Market, so what brings you here event after event?
Oh, I love this event for the other vendors. The other vendors are so supportive of each other, so much fun. It's the only place I can think of that has live music. It has food, it's got beer, it's got great artists. I mean, just incredible talents here, and I will always be here for it.
Well, that was just a taste of what you can find here at the Plymouth Punk Rock Market. I want to thank Leandra Kelly and also Mayflower Brewing for allowing us to come out here, shoot a little footage today. Hope you enjoyed it. Also, be sure to follow the local scene on YouTube and all of our socials. Thanks a lot. See you next time.
For more on the Plymouth Punk Rock Market, visit facebook.com/Plymouth Punk Rock Market. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was not only an American lawyer and a Supreme Court justice, but she was a singular movement paving the way for women everywhere. On September 5th, the Pembroke Council on Aging invites you to learn all about the life of this visionary in a one-woman show performed by actress Cheryl Faye. In this 50-minute performance, Cheryl will take us through the life and times of the notorious RBG, revealing her triumphs, her obstacles, and her legacy. This event is sponsored by the Friends of the Pembroke Council on Aging. To register, please call 781-294-8220. From now until December of 2024, you'll have the chance to view Pilgrim Hall exhibits Real Mythic, People of Early Plymouth. Featuring artifacts and interactive multimedia displays, this new exhibit looks to explain what is known and not so known about historical figures in the early Plymouth colony and how we have come to understand them over time. Admission can be purchased in person or online at pilgrimhall.org. During the first week in June, America's Hometown Laureates invited poets of all ages to its first Plymouth Poetry Festival. Over the course of 3 days, poets read original and borrowed poetry at 5 different locations, including Black Lantern Tavern, Uva Wine Bar, Shirley Square, Plymouth Center for the Arts, and Books and Sundry. Over the next few weeks, we'll be featuring a wide range of talented poets from across the South Shore. First up, here's John Holgerson with a reading of his original work.
I'm going to introduce, though, John Holgerson, who is here to recite his works. John, tell us a little bit about yourself when you come to the microphone and jump into your work, would you? Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you. Good afternoon. Before I tell you a little bit about myself, I just want to make sure I compliment and commend the entities behind Hometown Poet Laureates for putting together this festival. Also, the venues that will be hosting the festival, starting with the Black Lantern today. I think that it goes without saying to those of us who are here how important the survival of poetry is, not just for us, but for our society. Because of the divisive society we do live in today, the one thing that may be able to bring us together is the spoken word. And keeping in mind that although we read poetry in black and white print, its origin was the spoken word. And that's why venues such as this and the Poetry Festival itself are so very, very important. So as for me, I have been writing since I was 13 years old. I started writing screenplays for black and white television shows. You might remember The Fugitive with David Jansen or Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. I wrote screenplays for those in a black and white speckled notebook on my front porch. I started writing poetry when I was 17. And when I went to university, I met a professor whose name is John Matthias, who is an American poet. And he conducted, besides classroom work, he conducted poetry readings for his students at his home. And it was through John Matthias that I became a serious writer of poetry and have tried to do my best to live up to his admonition to be a serious writer if you have the talent. So I have published 3 books of poetry, Broken Borders by Wasteland Press in 2012, Chapbook of Poems on Necessary Tattoo and Other Stains on a Stainless Steel Heart in 2016 by the Finishing Line Press, and in 2021, Convictions of the Heart, which is what I'm going to read from this afternoon, which was published by In Case of Emergency Press. Convictions of the Heart is a collection of poems. The first half of the book deals with poems that I have either written on or about the Greek island of Hydra. I go to the Greek island of Hydra every year, barring pandemics, and have been doing so since 1995, although the first time I was there was in 1970 when I was 22 years old. So these poems that I'm reading now are from that first half of the book. Hydra, April 2019, for Leonard Cohen, 1934 to 2016. I stood outside your old home today, as I've done in years past. Tangled ivy vines from the roof terrace stretched down the wall toward me, a thin green leafy rope, inviting me to grab its strands with both hands and pull myself up. If I was a younger man, perhaps, but my wall scaling days ceased long ago. Instead, I looked for the wire and the bird. I saw the former, a tightrope, taut and thin, pole-tied between red-roofed white houses. There was no sparrow, but I'm still here, listening for what cannot be heard. I put my hand on the wall of your house, hoping the lingering remnant of a once-strummed guitar riff or the clickety-clack of your old olive green Olivetti would course through my fingertips, run the maze of jagged lines on my smooth palm, up my willing arm to the area of the brain or whatever part of the soul sends messages to the muse assigned to a scribbler of verse. But it doesn't work that way, does it, Leonard? That singular muse here for you then isn't mine. Although I'd like to think they may be sisters, more likely cousins, once or twice removed. At Duskos Taverna, I dined on fresh Xiphias under the huge old pine tree where once upon a time, before fame and fortune fell upon you, you sat, sang, and played guitar for Mariana and all your Idriot friends. I'll come by tomorrow. You never know. Someone or something may be at home. When I'm on the island, I rent and have since 2010 a house that's high up over the harbor on the eastern side of the island. And this poem is about that house. It's entitled High White Stone House. I don't think of you much in this high white stone house with silence and unseen shade drawn on each unshuttered window. Outside, the buzz of flies on poppies as loud as saws on redwood. The clop of hooves on carved rock stairs as empty as the chairs in the living room. No sound replicates your laughter, burning moussaka in the kitchenette, or your violin serenading the gypsies on the boats in the Horseshoe Harbor. The creak of the door creeps across these walls. The breath of the wind stutters. You, standing on the terrace, naked from the back, a ghost who sometimes mutters. When shutters close at day's end, a hungry dark slides over me inside this high white stone house, this hollow, unending echo of you. This next poem is actually 3 tanka. Tanka is a Japanese poetic form of putting 31 syllables in 5 lines with a syllable line 5, 7, 5, 5, 7. You can cheat like I do if you really want to count the syllables in this poem, but it should be close to 5, 7, 5, 5, 7. Also, the purpose of a tanka is to keep or to express an emotional state. Could be any type of emotion, but an emotional state. I put these 3 tanka together because they, in my opinion, they are essentially the same theme. Tanka triptych. The absence of you, a shawl across my shoulders. drawn tighter by the stillness of trees, the silence of birds. Watching the moon float amid cruising charcoal clouds, an ashen buoy on an onyx ocean, I thought of you tonight. The old dog lies down, headstone shade blankets him. He waits as before, head on the ground, dreaming, in smell of earth, scent of home. I'm pretty sure I'm at the end of my time, so I'm going to end actually with a new poem that I wrote this past April while I was on my annual obsessive pilgrimage to Idra. It's interesting only because it's the first new poem I've written in 10 months. I spent that 10-month period in captivity by the muse of fiction, who had incarcerated the muse of poetry and forbade me contact with her. However, during my pilgrimage to Idra, there was a jailbreak by the muse of poetry, and this poem escaped. It's called Cross Currents for Izzy. In the river that is time, there are no dams. Its passage never stops. For a few hours, in its ebb and flow, our currents crossed. So we would share a memory found and then lost when the swifter current pulled away politely at the delta of age. Thank you very much.
For more information on America's Hometown Laureates, visit hometownlaureates.com or find them on Facebook. If you enjoy all styles of acoustic music while soaking in the atmosphere of the beach, then plan to come to Gray's Beach in Kingston on August 29th at 6 p.m. Adam Frates and his friends, Jack Donahue and Kenny Isaacs, will soothe and inspire with Adam's music, self-described as feel-good and positive. A great way to round out the summer and part of Kingston Recreation Department's Gray Beach events. No stickers are required and food trucks will be on hand to please your palate. For more information, visit Kingston Recreation Department's Facebook page. Plymouth Public Library will be hosting a 21-plus singles night on Friday, August 25th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. This inclusive event welcomes people of all sexual orientations for a memorable evening of drinks from Independent Fermentations Brewing, food, and live music. Connect, mingle, laugh, and celebrate love in a vibrant and welcoming atmosphere at the Schiff Garden at the library. For more information about this free event, visit the library's website, plymouthpubliclibrary.org. Hurricane season runs through November, and being prepared is your best defense against the unexpected. The American Red Cross is sponsoring a coffee hour about hurricane preparations at the Pembroke Council on Aging. This 30-minute presentation by Rick Burdine, who is the Southeast Disaster Program Manager for the Red Cross, will take place on Wednesday, August 22nd at 10 a.m. To reserve your spot for this important session, please call the COA at 781-294-8220. Here's Tiff with another installment of Pop-Up on the Local Scene, Plymouth Pride.
Hi there. On the last installment of Pop-Up on the Local Scene, Plymouth Pride, we chatted with a few folks who kicked off the festivities. This week, we're going to hear from 2 nonprofits and a kid-run business to hear all about how they are making a difference in the LGBTQ+ community and beyond. I'm with our friend Jennifer Harris, who's the president of American Hometown Laureates. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Yes. Well, first of all, hi, Tiffany, and thank you so much for your support with the work that we're doing. Poetry readings, and you actually are a poet, so it's pretty awesome working with you. So our organization, American Hometown Laureate, supports the current Plymouth Poet Laureate. We were the ones who selected Stephen Delbos. And then additionally, we just formed as a nonprofit organization to support poetry events throughout the town of Plymouth. We have secured some grants, a couple from Massachusetts Cultural Council, one local Plymouth Cultural Council, and a town funded promotions grant. So we're doing events. We did an open mic with PAC TV there at Plymouth North High School, where local poets came and read their own poetry, and that was awesome. And then just a couple weeks ago, we did Plymouth Poetry Festival, which was 5 different events on 3 days. A couple of restaurants, Uva Wine Bar was one of them. Black Lantern Tavern was one of them. Then we did at the Arts Center. And then Shirley Square was an outdoor event. And we wrapped it up with the Books and Sundry down on Water Street.
You're sponsoring Drag Queen Storytime today. Very exciting. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, I need to say I am a member of Massachusetts Library Association. I am a retired library director. I'm a public librarian, and in my heart of hearts, I had always wanted to bring a Drag Queen Storytime to the Plymouth Public Library, we are co-sponsoring this with. But my term ended, and so this is a way for us to support Drag Queen Storytimes, poetry readings, to share with the children and family of Plymouth so people can learn a broader view of life. So we're fully supporting any kind of drag queen activity. I'm very excited.
And what was the importance of you guys being here today? What was to show your presence, to show your support for LGBTQ plus community?
Well, we're just building up an audience, and we're trying to learn not only who wants to share and write their own poetry, but also who wants to hear it. And so what a natural connection between an outdoor event like this for LGBTQ to find out who is wanting to share their voice. And poetry is a beautiful way to do that. So that's our motivation.
I am with Lincoln and Abby from Dare to Care. Can you guys tell me a little bit about your business and what you do?
We sure can. Dare to Care is a relatively new business, and we donate 10% of all proceeds to Boston vs. Bullies. We have a website on bonfire.com where we sell t-shirts, and we go to multiple events around town and sell our stuff there at our booth.
How did this idea come about?
Well, we wanted to sell t-shirts and sell things and make a little extra money and give back to the community. So when we came up with this design and idea, it just kind of took off.
Why was it important for you guys to be at Pride today?
Because this is supporting everybody. It's not just supporting the LGBTQ plus community, but it's supporting everybody.
I'm with Kate from Shagley. Can you tell us a bit about Shagley?
Sure. So Shagley is the South Shore Alliance of Gay and Lesbian Youth. Right now, we're a group of roughly 6 to 10 people between the ages of 12 and 20, where they can just come and build a community and do different hobbies and things they like in a safe place.
Why do you think that is so important to give them a safe place?
Especially in the times that we live in, there's a lot of places in the public that just aren't safe to be yourself anymore. So this place is not only like a safe building for them to be in, but a safe space for them emotionally, where they can talk about things that they may be struggling with that's very individual to their personality and just who they are. And it's just like a great supportive place for them to be themselves. And that's so important, especially when you're in those teenage years of trying to figure out who you are as a person.
And what does it mean for you to be part of this organization?
It's been a really great journey for me personally. I've been involved with Shagley now for a little over a year, and just to know that I'm helping youth, especially like when I remember being a teenager, I was going through a lot of struggles at that time. So to just be there as a person they can ask questions to, it's been huge. It's been great. It's been great for me.
And that's what's good and good to know on the local scene this week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. If you've enjoyed this video by the local scene, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.